On the show right now. Very happy to have back on the show Representative Delia Ramirez, a Democrat representing the 3rd Congressional District in Illinois, serves on Committee on Homeland Security and Committee on Veterans Affairs. Representative Ramirez, nice to see you. Great job on the committee yesterday. Well, I'm going to ask you about it, but it's good to see you.
Good seeing you, Dean.
So yesterday, and I played the clip on the show, that you were questioning, slamming is probably the right word, Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, and you called for her to resign to her face. So share a little bit of the backstory. Like, I played some of the clip, but what led you to this conclusion that she must go?
I don't think that there's enough time in our show for me to be able to list out all of the things and all the failures and incompetencies that have been demonstrated by Secretary Noem. In 116 days, she has managed to break every single law. She has demonstrated that she has no regard for the courts, no regard for Congress. She said to me that she understood that we are in a co-equal branch of government, and she said that she understood that she doesn't have the authority to mismanage the funds that have been authorized by Congress. But then I followed up with, it's laughable because all that she has been doing is misusing the funds of DHS. Everything from $200 million, Dean, in propaganda commercials that are terrorizing children. I have constituents who call my office. I have colleagues of mine who have calls coming to their office of parents whose 6-year-old children don't sleep at night because they saw commercials with Secretary Noem talking about hunting down their parents. I mean, it's unconscionable. The idea that they're using every tool, masks, to abduct students, it's unconscionable, unimaginable, and yet she continues to do that. So for me, it was really important to have her before our committee. A number of us had called for her to come to our committee for months. Ranking Member Thompson said 3 months requesting that the secretary come before our committee when we began to see the alarming, stories, right? And facts of what's happening under her leadership. And it took 116 days for her to get there. The idea that she would be asking us for $69 billion more, while at the same time, the Republicans are asking us to cut Medicaid. I mean, absolutely not one more dollar for her. So for me, it was really important, Dave, to look into her eyes, to ask her basic questions about the Constitution, and then go in and really name one after the other, the many atrocious criminal things that have happened under her watch. And ultimately, there's no one else to blame at Homeland but her. Which is why what you didn't see is I stayed through the entire committee, all of the almost 4 hours of committee, and then I waited right out the door to physically present to her a letter for her to resign. She said to me, Dean, thank you. I'm going to take that as she's going to consider resigning because she should.
She should. Do you think at the end of the day, or that even now there might be a place for criminal investigations by state or local officials into what ICE is doing? I mean, what they did in New Jersey, roughing up the mayor and members of Congress, to me, there's no immunity for that. You can't just attack people like that.
You can't, but here's where we are. We are led right now by an authoritarian administration.
Right.
Secretary Noem came to the committee and with support and truly with the chairman of the committee itself, instead of apologizing, instead of saying that they're going to conduct an investigation to determine what those officers did on that day, you know what they did? They literally turned it around on my colleagues, on members of Congress, on a member that was sitting in committee. And instead of saying what happened to those members of Congress while attempting to conduct oversight was unacceptable, we're conducting an investigation, they instead vilified them and said that they expect an investigation on the members of Congress because they lied to the press and said that the members of Congress attacked the officers with a mob of criminals. I mean, Dean, there are moments that I sit in committee and I look around and ask, like, what alternative world am I living in? What fascist fantasies do they think that they're going to live into? And so I think it's really important. For me, it was really important, Dean, that when I had my very limited 5 minutes, I spent them listing out point by point it was hard to squeeze it all in 5 minutes. I'll tell you, frankly, there was a lot more I needed to say, but I couldn't. The ways that she has demonstrated incompetent, unfit to lead the department, and frankly, the corruption that she and Donald Trump are engaging in, $45 billion that they want to spend in building more ICE facilities so that his billion-dollar friends and buddies who are investing in building his prisons become richer is disgusting, despicable. And I needed to make sure that that was also on record.
Yeah, we had Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman on earlier in the week, who's been on, she's like a regular on the show talking about this. And, you know, they lied. They said that a member of Congress body slammed an agent. They released the video. There's none of that. And they keep repeating it, even though the video doesn't show it, that, oh, there was a bus that came with detainees and they stormed the thing. And Bonnie Watson Coleman said, there's no bus. There's nothing of that. We were inside the facility. They went out to grab the mayor who was on public ground. They went out to grab him there. And that's when the whole melee started. And the video backs it up. So we're dealing with dangerous people. I wanted to ask you about the
dangerous, fascist liars, Dean.
Yep.
Let me just say one last thing.
Sure.
I watched that video in committee. And, you know, and the secretary and the chairman and other members of Congress on the Republican side were just trying to do everything they could to vilify and criminalize LaMonica, who was in the committee, who was there. And then they showed the video and they said they were dangerous. They attempted to harass the agents that were there. Well, if they were so bad and they weren't doing what you said that they needed to be doing, why did you then let them go into the facility and conduct oversight? If someone is so dangerous to you,
right, you
wouldn't say, here's a door, open door, come on in. So I don't understand how they create and fabricate all these lies, but they don't spend enough time thinking about the logic of their bullshit. It doesn't, there's no logic because it's in fact that bullshit.
Because no one calls out their lies to their face when they go on Fox News or Newsmax or in their GOP caucus. That's Look, right. A big thing that's come up on my show are all the masks that the people in ICE are wearing. Our police officers don't wear masks. Our police officers are there and they have their name and their badge, and that's for accountability. But ICE, and I don't mean in a dangerous situation, I mean just on the streets when they're disappearing a college student or at the facility in Newark, are wearing masks. Half of them wear masks, half don't. Why? I know that came up a little yesterday. Why don't they want us to see who they are? It's the only way to hold them accountable if they commit crimes.
I think for a few reasons, Dave, if I'm being honest with you.
Sure.
One, what they're doing, they're not detaining, they're not questioning, they're abducting and kidnapping students, people, women with children. And the idea that they wear these masks also allow for the propaganda of terrorizing communities to be front and center at every single media hit. I mean, what our families and kids and students and the American people are seeing is masked up men, mostly, hovering over a student, a young woman, and abducting her. This is a message to anyone that would dare to stand up for immigrants and for immigrants themselves, that this authoritarian fascist administration will abduct you in daylight and at night, and you won't even see them coming. It's all intentional. It's criminal. It's disgusting.
It's all about fear. You're absolutely right. Just like other fascists and dictators and authoritarian regimes do. They want you to be afraid. They want you to be afraid that mass people are going to come up, whisk you away in an unmarked car to a location in another state, and no one knows where you are, and you're gone. Or, I mean, wait till they've done it to U.S. citizens. I mean, it came up yesterday, and that she lied about the mother wanted the children with cancer to leave the country. Why would you want a child with cancer to leave the country when here's all the care? And I was glad that members brought up that I talked to the lawyers, and that's not true.
I talk to the lawyers, talk to the dad. It's not true. But here's the other thing, Dean, you know, that I wouldn't put it past them. Look, if you were walking at a market, you're getting out of a car, and these three people masked up from head to toe approach you, and someone else sees that, they would think it's someone that wants to, well, yeah, they're kidnapping you to begin with, but I wouldn't be surprised if what they want is for that person or people with that person to attack or to defend them, right? To push them off, to maybe fight them off. And then they can go say, you see, these criminals are hurting our police.
Yep.
They are creating the kind of circumstances and the kind of environment that would spew a civil war in this country. It's horrifying, Dean. And the idea that I have colleagues of mine, some of them who came from Cuba, some of them whose grandparents came from Italy as orphans in this country, that can watch what's happening and somehow create an alternative reality. I mean, delusional, but of course it's scary to the American people and to everyone watching.
It is. And look, at the same time, Trump ends the refugee program effectively for everyone, but he's bringing in white refugees from South Africa like it's a movie. Like this can't be real. Like you literally on this, and at the same time ending the temporary protected status for Afghanistan residents who are here because they work with our military, a lot of them, and sending them back to Taliban control Afghanistan. But it's literally they're importing white people to make their base happy. And it's not going to change the demographics of America. It's like 50 people, but it was symbolic to send a message to their base. Look, we're bringing in white people. Aren't you happy?
Well, Dean, it's interesting, right? Because I'm a co-leader in the Great Replacement Theory bill, really calling out the white supremacy that you see in this country, and so many who are literally fearful that they will be replaced by non-white people. And of course, when I brought that up in committee, both in Homeland and in Natural Resources, when I subbed in before about some of their witnesses who have authored so much of what now Project 2025 is using to literally import white people to be able to ensure that they can attempt to carry on their white supremacy agenda. They've said to me, absolutely not, Congresswoman. I am not a racist. That is unconscionable. We would never think this way. And now you have a president, a secretary, and an entire cabinet that to your face are saying, these are worthy to be Americans, and these are not. Look at the shade, like to your face, white supremacy, racism, blatantly in your face. I mean, they're not even hiding the quiet part. They're saying it out loud to your face, like over and over and over, and they're smiling and slapping us while they do it.
Yeah, and Donald Trump saying during the press conference before he left for the Middle East, oh, there's a genocide going on of white people. There's not. But white genocide is one of the talking points of the white supremacists. There's even a Twitter and social media feed called White Genocide, which Trump retweeted in 2016 when he was running for president, that exact Twitter handle, White Genocide. So he is feeding them. He's not oblivious, folks. He knows exactly what he's doing. And
he's an abuser, Dean. That's what abusers do. Yeah. Abusers blame the victim for the abuse. He is he's the center of abuse that we are seeing. And so it's just really crazy to me, right? That the way he uses genocide only for his own convenience, only for his own whiteness. I mean, of course, his Russian immigrant wife is okay, but a immigrant from any other country, certainly from Guatemala, from Venezuela, from Haiti, no, they're not enough. And the idea that there are members of Congress with my shade of color who were either immigrants themselves or children of immigrants could watch that should ask themselves, what the fuck happened to me? Why do I hate myself so much that I'm willing to allow this man to vilify my own roots, my own upbringings, where I come from? It's a shame. It's a shame. And I'm embarrassed for them.
People have compromised their values for power. I'm trying to Representative Delia Ramirez. Now, today, the Supreme Court's going to hear oral argument on the birthright citizen case, but really focus more on nationwide injunctions than the substance. But I know you introduced legislation to stop Trump from restricting birthright citizenship because they're doing everything they can to pick and choose the only refugees who can come to America and immigrants, and they are white. That's what we know. So can you share a little bit about your legislation? And have you is there any chance there'll be a vote on it in the House?
Yeah, I mean, we introduced legislation this week with over 100 members of Congress as co-sponsors. I think 106 members. We're going to continue to add more co-sponsors in the coming weeks. I think it's really basic. It's what the Constitution states, and it's been in law for over 100 years. If you were born in this country, you're a United States citizen, period. And what you see with Secretary Noem, with the president attempting to call the question about deporting homegrown people, right, to Salvador, or saying, well, the U.S. citizen children can self-deport. He has made it very clear who he thinks who's American and who's not. And I think this EO is incredibly dangerous. And while some people find it laughable, right, because it's so out of touch and wrong, he doesn't stop just because we know it's against the law. He actually doubles down. So for me, this legislation is really important because it does two things. One, it affirms that in this country and affirms what the Constitution states clear through the 14th Amendment. If you're born in this country, you are a United States citizen. And furthermore, despite of the idea of any nationwide injunctions, because I think it's really important, right? Because as we're thinking about ending nationwide injunctions in this country, it would in fact mean that some states could recognize birthright citizenship while others wouldn't. If you're born in Illinois, your birthright citizenship is recognized, but if you're born in Texas, maybe not. It is chaotic and terrible, and why this legislation is so important. But the second part of it that I think is important is to say that we will not allow any $1 be spent in Donald Trump's campaign to end birthright citizenship. So it prohibits funds being used to be able to implement or execute his executive order in ending birthright citizenship. Now, I would say to you, I've had some conversations with some Republicans off record who agree that this is crazy. If you're born here, you're a citizen. What we were saying is we're concerned about the people that come here undocumented who, didn't go through a process. But this is very different. Some of them, this could be a wife or a husband, right? And so I think it's really important to make sure that as we build up the bill, I use every authority in my power to ensure that at some point, if we needed to, we take it to some procedural vote if needed. We've done a discharge petition for Medicaid. I hope we don't have to go that route, but I certainly would be ready to do that. And I know that people are going to be organizing for it. This is bottom line, your rights, the Constitution, civil rights at its core. And the idea that this president would end our rights as American citizens is unimaginable for so many people, but also alarming and terrorizing.
It's part of the Trump MAGA playbook. They want to end our Constitution, our rule of law, and replace it with a MAGA version, which is not consistent with the values of this country. And our country has challenges, but we stand for certain things, and they don't care what the Constitution says. Trump literally wants to rewrite the Constitution from his desk. Republicans are on board with that. Last two quick things, because one is vitally important. It's the massive cuts to Medicaid we're looking at now. It passed certain committees yesterday, to food stamps and more. Share what's very alarming to you about this. This is really painful. The lifeline for so many millions of Americans, especially children.
It's alarming. And if you saw some of the images from committee, I couldn't help but tear up. Wow. You have constituents who came in their wheelchair to committee, being yelled at and pushed out of committee because they dared to ask, why would you cut Medicaid and literally kill me? I mean, I don't know how some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle sleep at night. You were sent to Congress to make life better for your constituents, to ensure that their basic needs are met, not to kill them by taking away their health care. I don't give a damn how much you like to be here, your salary or the attention or this damn pin. Like the idea that you would be willing to sell out to your very same constituents, some of them that you go to church with, some of them that you see on your same block, some of them who live paycheck to paycheck, but somehow you convince them that you are going to represent them. It's a shame, a shame. And so, of course, we knew that many of them are under this control of who they think is this mystical president, Donald Trump, that's going to save them. Well, I don't know how you quote scripture about protecting the poor and also praise and worship your orange Jesus at the same time. But I think that we are right now at a crossroads. And members of Congress are going to have to ask themselves, Why the hell am I here? And I got to tell you, as Democrats, we need to do everything in our power to ensure that those cuts don't come to that floor. And I've been
Absolutely.
saying this over and over. Every procedural vote that we have to obstruct Donald Trump and the Republicans who are literally voting to kill our constituents by cutting their health care.
40% of children rely on Medicaid, 60% of people in senior facilities or long-term facilities. So you've got from children to seniors and millions in between that need it. Very last thing, the last minute, I'm sorry, Representative Delia Ramirez, a UN assessment this week came out that since Gaza has been under blockade for the last 70 days by the Netanyahu administration, no food, no medicine, no water, that they face extreme levels of food insecurity and critical risk of famine, according to the report. Is there something more the U.S. could be doing in terms of pressuring Netanyahu to allow basic food and medicine into 2 million people living in Gaza that are imprisoned, essentially?
Dean, you and I know that there's so much more we need to be doing.
Right.
There's so much more we needed to be doing under Biden, and certainly now the conditions have just worsened. You have a president that says he wants to end the war, but he's arming Bibi Netanyahu to decimate Gaza. You have a president that says that he's going to the Middle East, not to go figure out how to resolve this war on Gaza that is killing children from starvation, but instead to go figure out how he can make himself richer and then go tell the Syrian government, I'm going to get rid of those sanctions while Qatar gives me a $400 million new Air Force One. We know that there's corruption, but this level in your face, I am going to use taxpayer dollars to fly myself to the Middle East while you're starving. I'm cutting your healthcare. I'm cutting your SNAP benefits. I'm telling you that I want to end the war while babies haven't eaten in weeks.
Yep.
But this man is going to the Middle East not to be the president that is attempting to lead by example, but to enrich himself in that way. Dean, there is so much more we should be doing. And I'm going to tell you, Dean, over the next few days, I'm working on some legislation. I'm working with a number of my colleagues to really ramp up on the Democratic side this cry. We can't just talk about wanting a ceasefire. Can you still see me? Sorry.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. My Microsoft Teams keeps coming up. We can't just talk about wanting a ceasefire. We can't just say in a letter that we want to see the blockade gone. We have to figure out how to do more than that. And I'm going to be talking to you very soon about some of those steps that we can be taking that are even more concrete than that.
That's great. Representative Ramirez, thank you for making time. Thank you for being a fighter. We need more fighters. We need more Representative Ramirez's in Congress. We need more and more fighters out there. And I look forward to chat with you hopefully next month.
Thank you, Dean.